Okay, so what's your name?
My name's Adam Spittles.
And how many years have you been an Ahmadi Muslim?
I've been Ahmadi Muslim since 2009, so 3 years.
3 years, cool. And so just tell me a story. How did you end up becoming an Ahmadi Muslim?
Well, it all started, we've got an hour, yeah?
Yeah, we've got
It's a friend of mine converted, someone who I'd known since I was a child, converted to Islam, to Ahmadiyya, and I always had kind of connotations with people converting to a religion, and my friend I knew since I was about 10 years old, so like 20 years, nearly 20 years at the time, and yeah, so I knew him, very well, and grew up together and did GCSEs together, and I knew he didn't fit that category, so I started looking to Islam and Ahmadiyya in particular, mainly to find out what he converted to, and I didn't know anything about Islam at the time. In fact, the first thing I learned was Islam actually meant peace, so I was completely oblivious even from step one. So I first looked into it, not for converting or not anything like that, just to find out what he'd converted to. And then the more I looked into it, I actually found the more it made sense to me, and actually it made more sense to me than what I was before. For example, if someone asked me to write down on a form your religion, I would put Church of England, but I used to go to a Baptist church, with family. And one of the things that never really sat with me being a Christian is about the Jesus side of things, about going on the cross and dying and resurrecting. And one of the things that really clicked with me the most is the fact that the Ahmadi community believe that Jesus didn't die on the cross, but he fainted. There's lots of things that I found out along the way, like they didn't break his legs, and some of the different, and the fact they pierced his chest, and blood and water gushed out, which showed the heart was still pumping. And that, as soon as I read it, everything I read, it was like, that makes sense. Even when they make references to the Bible rather than like their own books. And one of the other things I remember quite distinctly when I was about 12, I was in church, and I remember the whole sermon being about Jesus and praise Jesus and everything else. And I remember thinking, even as a 12-year-old child, I don't understand why we're praising Jesus. We should be talking about God and praising God and praying to Him. So I wasn't quite sure. That never really sat with me. But I wasn't really looking for a new faith when I was 12 years old. So so it was my friend of mine who converted, and I started from there.
Give me a bit more detail. The last bit when you said, "That's it, I have to convert." Because I've heard his story. There's a bit more.
Yeah.
You just said, "That's it, I have to."
Well, I looked into the faith for about 18 months, about 2 years. I actually met with someone who's now a friend of mine from the local mosque. We used to meet up once a week. I used to go out for a meal, and I didn't go to the mosque. It was just a case of I kind of got a contact of the local area because we didn't live near each other at the time. And we met up and we talked about it a bit more. So as I say, I first got taught about the 5 pillars of Islam, and each one of them made a lot of sense to me. And like the one true God was like, that's what I've always believed and makes a lot of sense, so no worries there. And then prayer, I was like, yep, happy with that. The fact it was 5 times a day was always not a problem for me, but it seemed excessive. And it kind of, I think someone explained it to me that I misunderstood, that God created man to praise him. And I was a bit like, well, I don't really like the idea of somewhat, a God or an entity creating something just to praise him. It sounds almost, I don't want to say selfish, but it's not what not what sat with me. So I went into more and more things, and so the 5 times a day prayer, I understood, I appreciated, but I found it difficult. In fact, it's still a challenge with a day-to-day life.
You touched on something which is very common, that people go, why does God want us to pray to him?
Yeah.
And now, although that's not what this is about, but you touched on it, so
yeah.
What was your answer at the end?
Well, what I actually, I thought, just as I was talking to someone on the phone about how I didn't like it and how it didn't make sense to me before I did my conversion. And I kind of thought, well, actually, it would be really nice if you think about the 5 prayers logically. The first one's in the morning. So the first thing you do when you get up is you pray to God. You know, thank you for bringing me back to life after my sleep. Please let work be kind to me. You know, and going through the normal prayers. And I was thinking, at work, I work in an investment bank in London, so it's quite stressful and, you know, financial industries. And I was thinking it would be really nice if the floor manager or the director at the time, if he said, right, it's now 10:30, everyone's worked for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just stop and just relax. Don't be on the computer, don't answer their phone, just spend 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes and just be quiet. So no talking to each other, no cups of tea. And I thought, well, actually, that's what Islam does. So you get a break during the middle of the day that just says, whatever you're doing, just stop. Everyone, doesn't matter whether you're kings or, you know, paupers and all these things. Everyone congregate and relax. And then there's 2 or 3 others during the day, and there's one in the evening, so it's almost the last thing before you do at night. And I thought, well, actually, it's not. I had a click in my head that it's not God wanting something for you. It's actually something He's given you. So it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter how busy you are, take this time for you and take this time to, you know, reflect. And in the prayer, similar to in Christianity, we have the Lord's Prayer. There's a very set things that you say. You've got set movements and things, and even the movements themselves. When you clean yourself, so you wash your mouth out 3 times, wash your nose 3 times, face 3 times, etc. That's waking you up and refreshing you. Actually, the wuzu, if you don't mind me carrying on, the cleaning of yourself before you do prayers. I never liked doing it when it was cold, and like winter in December and things, because I was like, it's cold outside, I don't want to catch a cold and things. Oh,
you just in case, so you have to wash yourself before you pray, just in case, because you said wuzu, and I'm so used to
I didn't want to use that term.
I'm used to hearing it, so I just realised, so you have to clean yourself before you pray, just washing your hands, washing your mouth out, your nose out a bit quickly.
Basically and making yourself clean before you go into prayer.
And this was another thing that was a bit uncomfortable, and then
so it seemed, because often you go to work, it's cold, you don't do anything energetic, so you don't sweat and things, but you still, it's still advised to do it and recommended to do it. And it didn't make much sense to me. And actually I went through Humanity First, if I'm allowed to plug things.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe not.
No, that's alright, we just don't want to sidetrack too much.
I went to Gambia, and it was like 30 degrees there. And before prayers I was like, okay, well, I'm in a Muslim country, so I'll respect their procedures. So I did the cleaning and cleaned my face 3 times, and neck and arms and things. And it was like I felt so much more refreshed. And I felt it's more like if you're going to meet your in-laws for the first time or something, you prepare yourself and you make yourself clean. And again, that's what's recommended to you before you go and pray to the ultimate being.
So one thing after the other, I'm summarising for you. They were like, you had issues and you kept on resolving them, and it seemed to make your life better one way or the other. So what was the point? I just remember you telling me a story about how you didn't like the idea that you couldn't eat pork. And then was that the end of it? And you said, yeah, I've got to be Muslim once you realised.
There were.
Was that?
There were a few things. I kind of, first of all, I started off in a sort of very negative, you look in the media, it's all terrorism and things like that. And so I thought, well, instead of going in with that mindset, I'll just go in completely blank slate. What's it about? And again, the first time I found out Islam meant peace, everything kind of went out the window anyway, so I was starting from scratch. And one of the things I had an issue with was the fact you don't eat pork. My thinking was, in the past in Arabia, in Saudi Arabia, it's too hot, you don't have fridges, the technology wasn't there to contain the meat. And of course if you leave pork out, it festers and you get maggots and things. And so I kind of looked and talked about it, and I never really got an answer that made the most sense to me. And then there's 2 things. One, I looked on one of the Ahmadiyya websites, and it talked about pork being a negative meat, and how it kind of produces negative emotions if you eat too much of it, which again made a bit more sense to me. And then one day I was just like, okay, well, this is a hurdle to me. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll leave it up to God and just say, if I should be following Islam, I should be following Ahmadiyya, I need a sign just to get over this one step. And I think it was either the next day, I want to say it's the next day, but it may have been a day or two later. I was going to the train in Croydon, and I picked up a Metro, as I did every day. And on the front page, it had pork causes cancer, in big black letters on the front page. I was like, okay, I think I can take that as a sign, and yeah, maybe giving up pork isn't the end of the world, and you're probably better off for it. So yeah,
the ways I mean, my experience with signs are they kind of are for you, because
yes,
anybody could say, oh, that's not a sign, that's just your,
yeah,
but it kind of hits you in a way that you go, that's it. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So okay, anyway, so yeah, you convert to Islam now, yeah?
Yeah.
Just about somewhere around there, right? So the next question is, how did your friends and family react?
Interestingly, my dad I thought would be a bit more against it, but he's understands faith and sort of thinks almost it's good to have a faith, but doesn't really matter which religion you have. And he said, all the principles, Ten Commandments, and Judaism, all the main faiths believe in the same things. So one for the other doesn't make much difference. Thank you. And my friends, I think my friends were a bit surprised, but they knew me, and I think because they didn't see a change in me personally, I think they were a lot more accepting of it. So rather than coming in with like full beard and different dress and everything else and talking a different language, so yeah, so I kind of went in. It was the same, but my mother was my main, not concern, but it was the biggest surprise to me, because we were very close, ever since I was the age of 10. Since they divorced, so I came head of a household when I was 10 years old, with a younger brother, 5 years younger. So we've been very close and everything. And when she knew I was looking into it, and she knew I came to some annual conventions. But I think she either thought it was just finding out information for myself, or it was something that would just kind of go away. I'll get bored of it or something. And then when I told her that I came to the national convention and did my conversion, she was really shocked. And I kind of said, her body language changed, and I was like, I still love you. And she said, yeah, no, I still love you too. And I was like, it was a bit more of a pause than I'd like. And her, I say, body language was very sort of negative, and I'd never ever seen. We've never been like that, and always support each other. So that was the biggest challenge I had. But I think after 2 or 3 months, where she saw that I was still making the same joke, same silly jokes, and still coming around and seeing her and not preaching to her, and still helping her out with the household and things, she's much more relaxed now, and I think she might actually be coming to one of our conferences. Yeah, so the majority of people were quite open, I think, because they knew me before, and my parents and sort of grandparents, because I haven't personally changed, just my faith and my foundation has taken a slightly altered course. They're quite opening and welcoming of it.
Okay, and just finally, could you summarise some way how your life has changed?
My life has changed in a sort of very subtle way, in that if you're always following one path, then your destination is one thing. But if you make an ever so slightly 2 or 3 degree change, in 6 months' time, in years' time, in 5 years' time, you're a completely different course. So whereas I've made little changes, like I stopped drinking alcohol and stopped eating pork. So my belief, I'm kind of following a system that's much more comprehensive, I think. And because Muslims live their religion rather than have an hour and a half slot on a Sunday for their religion, and then almost completely ignore every aspect of that faith. No disrespect to the Christians, but that's what I did, you know, and that's what I know other people, my friends, have done. So yeah, I just feel that now I'm on this path, it's the right one for me. I'm certainly more than happy with it. I'm helping out the Islam information desk for guests and things, and I just feel I'm in a much better place, going to a much better place. So I feel very confident and happy that I've done so.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to add a tiny thing. Since you mentioned Humanity First,
yeah.
Always want to advertise themselves. Tell me a little bit about what you did for Humanity First.
So Humanity First, www.humanityfirst.org.uk, I believe. I'd always wanted to do something with charity, and you know, whether it was helping the homeless or feeding in a soup hall or something. But I never really knew where to go and, you know, who to speak to and how to go about it. It was always kind of in the back of my head to do something. And then when I came to Ahmadiyya Islam, there was Humanity First. Humanity First, just as a name, kind of explains it all, and yeah, so because it was started with the Ahmadiyya Islam organisation, but isn't guided by them. It's all volunteers. We've got Christians and Jews. Yeah. A lot of people the doctors who go out are non-Muslim, and there's no preaching or anything like that. Getting off track. So I kind of went to them and said, all right, okay, I haven't got a mortgage, I haven't got a house, I haven't got kids, so I'm free. And if I'm going to do something, I may as well do it now before I start getting all those limitations. So I basically said, I just want to go somewhere and maybe go to Africa and just dig a well. That's kind of my foundation. And they said, okay, great. We have, we do charity, we have funding in things, we have labour in each of the locations, so digging wells isn't a problem. But what we need is other skills like project management, and I'm a network engineer, so I did a computer science degree, so I'm in IT, in networking specifically. So I went over there for 2 weeks with my wife. I taught IT for a week to some of the teachers who teach Word and Excel and computer hardware, and so they could go on to teach other people. We also went to villages and I helped fix the well, her hand pump, and those bits and pieces. And my wife went and she had sort of funding assigned to refurbish a chemistry lab in one of the schools locally, which was sponsored by the Jamaat, and she went with Humanity First. Sorry, the Ahmadiyya. Yes. So we went there for 2 weeks. And I'm hoping to go back again at the end of this year or beginning of next year, and I'm hoping to be able to go to dedicate 1 week or 2 weeks every year for the next few years or so. So yeah, Humanity First is amazing, and can't compliment it enough, really. Yeah, so just to summarise, the point of mentioning that actually was, why is that relevant, is because in the sense that basically the Muslim community, the Ahmadi Muslim community also gives you a lot of fun things to do, and you reel them off, like I did this, that and the other, but you have to go there to experience it. Because I went to Gambia, it's amazing, you can put in words. The people, so Humanity First being a part of the a sub part of the organisation. Very good. Okay, thank you.